Hello, everybody. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the 2024 Latinx Kidlit Book Festival. My name is Paola Santos, and today I'll be the moderator of this wonderful panel. Vamos a leer a bilingual story time. Please read our anti-harassment policy in the chat box, and don't forget to subscribe to the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival's YouTube channel. And if you're a school, classroom, librarian, or educator joining us, our school visit fund is back. You can enter to win a free visit from a Latinx author or illustrator for your classroom or library. You can find the link to the entry form in the chat. It is an honor to be here with such an amazing authors, award-winning authors, and I am the newbie here. So thank you everybody for being here. So how are you today?
Good, thank you.
Yes.
Muy bien.
I'm excited to share this moment with you. Gracias por acompañarnos. And well, let's jump in with some introductions. So René, if you can just introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about your book, it will be awesome.
Hello, my name is René Colato Laínez, and I am the author of many bilingual books. My new book is the series My Friend, Mi Amigo, and right now there are 3 books in the series. Hola, soy René Colato Laínez, soy actor de muchos libros bilingües para niños y mis libros más recientes es una serie que estoy haciendo que se llama Mi Amigo, My Friend, y estos son los primeros 3 libros de la serie y vienen muchos más en el futuro.
Yeah, that sounds great. Love them. What about you, Lourdes?
Hello, everyone. I'm Lourdes Heuer, and my most recent books, which are the books I'm going to be reading a little bit from today, are Tiendas, published by Candlewick. And there's 2 more books coming out in the series next year, but today I'll get a chance to talk about these 2. So, hola, soy Lourdes Heuer y yo soy la autora de los 2 libros de Candlewick, Tiendas, con ilustraciones de Tara González Juan.
That's awesome. Beautiful books. I love the books.
Oh, thank you.
So, what about you, Angie?
Hola, I'm so happy to be here. And okay, so this is my first picture book. It's called Angélica and la Güira, which is about a little girl who finds her voice through the power of playing la Güira. And fortunately, it was translated by Kiana Antigua into Spanish. So Angélica y la Güira. And I'm really excited to share it with you.
Oh, thank you. It's an amazing book. I love it. Love it. So, well, my name is Paola Santos, as I said, and I am the author of Cómo se come un mango, How to eat a mango, both in Spanish and English. Mucha suerte de poder tenerlos en ambos idiomas. And it is illustrated by the amazing Juliana Perdomo. Look at this art. Isn't this beautiful? Look at all this. Oh, beautiful. And it is translated for Ana Izquierdo. It is published by Holiday House, New Porter Books, Holiday House. And the story is about Carmencita. Carmencita doesn't like eating mango, so Abuelita has to teach her to appreciate through the 5 senses her culture, family, and nature. So that is my book. So, well, let's jump in with the story time. So I hope you're ready. So what about if we read our books and after that we can share a little bit about what is the inspiration behind this story. So let's start with you, René.
This is my new book from Mi Amigo, My Friend. Let's Play in the Park, Juguemos en el Parque. This is book number 3. Este es el libro número 3 de la serie Mi Amigo, My Friend, y se llama Juguemos en el Parque. This story is about Yo and Jose. They are very good friends. Yo speak only in English, Jose speak only in Spanish, but even though they don't speak the same language, they have a lot of fun. And I say that to all the children who are watching us, that we can be friends even though we don't speak the same language, because it is fun to play with friends, even though we don't speak the same language. Aunque no hablemos el mismo idioma, podemos divertirnos todos juntos, aquí en la escuela, en tu casa y en todo lugar. So, este es mi libro, se llama Juguemos en el Parque, Let's Play in the Park, Juguemos en el Parque. Se la hago. Y esa es la contraportada. Este libro fue ilustrado por Nomar Pérez. This book has been illustrated by Nomar Pérez. And here we have Yo and José. They are at school reading about going to the park. Aquí está Yo y José en su escuela leyendo sobre el parque. Hi, José. Let's go to the park. Hola, Yo. Vamos al parque. I can ride my bike. Puedo ir en bicicleta. When you ride your bike, remember, it is very important to wear your helmet, because just in case you have an accident, the helmet can protect you. That's a very good idea. And here we have Yo and José with their helmets. Acuérdense que cuando van a usar su bicicleta, por seguridad es muy importante ponerse un casco, así como lo está haciendo Yo y José en estas ilustraciones, por si acaso pasa algo. Así estamos más protegidos. Here we are. Aquí estamos. See, they are excited to be at the park. Están muy contentos de estar en el parque. I like to swim. Me gusta columpiarme. Do you like to swim? Can you pretend to be swimming? To be swimming así, para columpiarse para atrás, para adelante, para atrás, para adelante. Me gusta como muchos niños en su salón y en su casa se están columpiando. It is so fun to swim. Me gusta columpiarme. I like to climb. Me gusta escalar. Y mira, con tus deditos, with your little fingers, we can climb up, 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 and down, 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 down. And you know what, children? I teach at Fernangeles Elementary, and we have this apparatus in our school. We call it Stanley. So when the children at my school saw this illustration, they went, Stanley! Do you have a Stanley at your school? At your playground? Or maybe you have a different one. But it is nice to climb. Es muy divertido escalar. And this is only part of the book. If you can take the camera off, I can show you a little bit about the others, because Holiday House only let us show the first pages. So in book number 1, Yo and José, they meet at school and together they paint. Aquí se conoce Yo y José en la escuela y juntos pintan. Hacen un sol amarillo, a yellow sun, a blue sky, un cielo azul, y al final del libro ellos se dicen que tienen una mejor idea, y la mejor idea es let's be friends, seamos amigos. Y en el libro número 2, we play soccer, juguemos al fútbol. En este libro Yo y José van a jugar al fútbol, están listos para ir a jugar al fútbol y juntos van a hacer que su equipo gane un gol, porque si mete un gol Yo y mete un gol José, ya son 2 goles y así pueden ganar. Y para este libro, for this book, it is really curious because children say that he's number 7 and number 9. And they told me that number 7 is Cristiano Ronaldo. And number 9 is Mbappé from France. So I say, yeah, and they kind of look like them. So estos son mis 3 libros que tengo por el momento. El libro número 4 sale muy pronto. Yeah, and these are my 3 books. Book number 4 is coming. So I invite all the children to keep reading and doing the best job at school. Que sigan leyendo y hacer un trabajo muy bonito en la escuela.
Wonderful series, René. Me encantó. Tengo una pregunta. I have a question for you.
Sí.
¿Por qué pensaste en un parque? Porque tienes el fútbol, tienes al comienzo cuando empiezan a ser amigos. And why did you choose a park for this last book?
The idea for the book number 3, creo que porque a mí de pequeño siempre me gustaba ir al parque en El Salvador. Yo soy del Salvador y me encantaba ir al parque y mi papá me llevaba al parque y siempre quería tener un libro bonito sobre el parque y esa fue la idea. Y del fútbol, porque pues como latinos nos encanta mucho jugar al fútbol. Y el primer libro, pues, sobre pintar. Y estas son experiencias desde la escuela, que yo trabajo en un salón soy maestro bilingüe y mis estudiantes son de pre-kinder. Aquí le llamamos UTK.
Oh, beautiful. Gracias, me encantó, me encantó. What about you, Lourdes? Can you read your book and maybe later? Yeah.
Yes, I'll show you a little bit. Os enseño un poco de cada libro y a ver, vamos a empezar yo creo que con The Flower Shop. So we can see on the front cover that we can see the front of the flower shop, you know, and the door is closed, but we see that adorable little cat. And then, you know, I'll show you a few pages later, but here just really quickly, when you turn the first page, what you see is that the store opens for business, right? So aquí tenemos la tienda, la florería, ¿ve? Y podemos ver el gatito. Y entonces cuando hacemos así con la primera página, vemos que la tienda se abre, ¿verdad? Entonces podemos entrar a comprar adentro de la florería. And we can see, look at all the flowers she sells. She is Mrs. Rosario, la señora Rosario, que nos ha bienvenido a la tienda La Florería. Look at all the flowers she sells. She sells. Entonces, si seguimos por todas las páginas, podemos ver todo lo que ella vende. Ahora os enseño al final. Vende un montón de cosas y viene todo el mundo a comprar en la florería. So all the kids in the neighborhood are coming and they're doing their shopping at the flower shop. And we can see, if you see on the screen, let me just go back one. You can see all the different flowers that La Señora Rosario is selling, right? So she has, and you get to pick, right? So you can look at all the flowers, and even though you're not in the flower shop, you can also make a choice about which flower would you pick. Would you pick the roses or the rosemary, right? Because go for it. Choose your favorite bunch. ¿Qué quieres? ¿Quieres rosas o quieres romeros? Do you want hibiscuses or hydrangeas? You can buy hibiscos or hortensias. We have chrysanthemums or carnations, chrysanthemos or claveles. When I was a kid, claveles, carnations were my favorite. We had a florist at the end of the street, and those were my favorite to buy all the time. We would buy white and pink and red carnations. But La Señora Rosario also sells daffodils or daisies, narcisos or margaritas. She sells lilacs or lilies, lilas or lirios, or peonies or petunias, peonias or petunias. And why are we going to the flower shop? Why are we going to la florería? ¿Por qué vamos a comprar rosas? Al final, o los narcisos o las margaritas, al final del libro vemos que estamos comprando las flores. Go for it. Choose your favorite bunch because we're going to take them to the senior center brunch. Escoge tu ramo favorito para el centro de ancianos, el más bonito. And the fruit shop, we can see that this is one of our other stores in the neighborhood. So this is Tiendas, the fruit shop, La Frutería. And again, we can see Mr. Manzano's fruit shop. When we open the book, we see that the shop is open for business, right? So the door is closed, but then we turn the page and now we're open for business. And welcome to Mr. Manzano's fruit shop. Look at all the fruit he sells. Mira cuánta fruta vende. Mira cuánta fruta vende. And I can see in this page that he sells kiwis y papayas. He sells cantaloupes y sandías. He's got star fruit y pitayas. He's got loquats. And he's got higos and many, many more. And all of the people, all of the neighbors and friends and family in the neighborhood go shopping through the pages of the book until they get to the page where they can make their final selection. What will they ultimately pick? What are they going to buy? Right? Go for it. Choose a fruit that's oh so yummy. What looks really good? Is it the loquat, the figs, los nísperos or los higos, the star fruit or the dragon fruit, carambola or pitaya, maybe peach or plum, melocotón o ciruela, or cantaloupe or watermelon, melón o sandía, grapefruit or guava, toronja o guayaba, or kiwis or papayas, kiwi and papaya. And I'm thinking of you as well, Paola. Estoy viendo la mata de mango que tengo aquí en el patio. So we have to give some love to el mango también, right? And so everybody goes shopping for the fruit. Dale, escoge una fruta muy jugosa. ¿Por qué? Why? For the picnic. For the picnic. Para el picnic, deliciosa. So everybody's buying the fruit so they can share it with the whole neighborhood. And there are next year we have 2 more coming, so there will be 2 more Tini Tiendas. These 2 will be joined by the hardware store, La Ferretería, and by the toy store, La Juguetería.
Lovely, beautiful books. I love them. I have to ask, what is the inspiration behind this story? Because, well, in Latin America, you know, en nuestros países latinoamericanos, estas tienditas pequeñas son sumamente importantes. Las ves en todas partes, en todas las esquinas. You can see all these tiny shops. They're everywhere in our country. So, what is the inspiration?
Y como te estaba diciendo, yo tenía una florería en la esquina de mi casa. Y yo me acuerdo de comprar esos claveles. I remember going there, you know, to pick up like a bunch of carnations. The main Tini Tienda store that I sort of have a fondness for was we lived on the 6th floor apartment, but on the ground floor there was una juguetería. There was a toy store, and actually my mother and the lady who owned the toy store became best friends over time. So we would get to go inside the toy store all the time. And of course, as a little kid, you know, that was like a dream. You got to see all the toys, even in the back before they were brought to the front. And the same thing with La Frutería o el puesto de frutas. These were all over in the neighborhood where I grew up. And yeah, it's really a love letter to all those little shops that are owned by like your local neighbors, and that it is where you go and you get, you know, vas y compras la fruta, la vianda, lo que necesites. So it's a love letter to Tini Tiendas, to the real ones.
Me encantó. When I saw the story, I thought, man, I wish I could have had that idea before. Porque imagínate, nosotros, yo en la carnicería,
claro,
en la frutería, y los convenience store for us is abastos. And they're everywhere.
Sí.
Amazing, beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope little readers, pequeños lectores, I hope you like it, because it gives you the agency que tú puedes entrar a la florería y te da la oportunidad de que tú puedes escoger lo que quieres comprar. You know, it's your choice this time. It's normally the grown-ups, right, that are doing the shopping, but with the Tini Tiendas, you get to pick what you want to buy.
Nice. Well, beautiful. So, Angie, would you like to read your book and maybe talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the book? Oh, if we cannot hear you.
It's very loud here, so I turned off my mic. First of all, I want to say how hungry I am now after listening to Tini Tienda and all those amazing fruits that I miss. And also like how beautiful it is to think of these books as like empowering children to go outside and to like identify the things that give us joy, right? Like sometimes we're eating these foods or we see these flowers and we don't know the names. It's very beautiful. Thank you for that work, Lourdes and René. So my book, Angélica la Güira, is about this young girl who, Angélica, who plays La Güira, which a lot of people don't know what it looks like, but it looks like this. It's like a tin can.
Nice.
And it has a very scratchy surface that makes a very obnoxious sound. But when played well, it's really one of the most important instruments in el merengue and la bachata. Okay, so let me read a little bit of it. So yeah, let's go. Angélica and la Güira. And it's so tiny, I'm going to read it from here. All summer, Angélica woke up to the sound of the parrot next door. Soon, she said goodbye to the parrot, her tias and primas, grandparents, and the Dominican Republic. The end of summer meant returning home to start school on another shore. The day before she left, Abuelito pulled out a wooden box from under his bed. and said, "Over 100 years ago, on a land where rocks are plenty, in the greenest valley between the mountains, this Güira played its song." Out of the box came a shiny hollow steel can the length of Angélica's arm. Abuelito held it tight with his right hand. With his left hand, he scraped its rough surface with a metal comb. Steady, like the beat of a drum, he made it sing. Cha-cha-chee, 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 chee-chee. This Güira belonged to my mother. It was given to her by her father, and his father before him. It is old, 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 he said. When La Güira played, people traveled from all over the country to dance to its song, he said. This Güira has power. It makes the music go slow, slow, or speed up, fast, fast. Sometimes its beat is so fast that when people dance to its song, everyone's legs and feet disappear. Poof! Like the flickering wings of a hummingbird. Angélica held La Güira and scraped the rough surface with the metal comb. "Make it sing," Abuelito said. And so she did. With each scrape, Angélica imagined the power of La Güira. She imagined the room full of people who wanted to dance to the swish and timbre of the magical tin can. Dancing so fast, their legs and feet disappeared. Angélica finished her song and looked at Abuelito. She didn't want to leave him. She hugged him for a very long time. Remember, when you play this Güira and fill the streets with sound, you are playing with everyone that came before you, including me. In this way, we are never apart, he said. I give you this Güira so you can take care of it. When she returned home to the land of Washington Heights, Angélica played La Güira every time she missed Abuelito. She played in the living room while Mommy worked on the computer, in the kitchen while Papi made his famous roast chicken. Amor mío, can you please go play it in your room, Papi asked. Angélica shared a room with her older sister Olivia, who was always practicing capoeira, and her older brother Ben, who spent his free time drawing comics. Angélica, I can't focus with that noise, Olivia said. Yeah, Angélica, go play that somewhere else, Ben added. That night, Angélica wrapped La Güira in a towel and slept with it. Maybe she needed a band, she thought. She dreamt of playing with her school orchestra so everyone could see the power of La Güira.
I love this book. I can hear the ch-ch-ch.
Mhm.
It's amazing, amazing. So, what was the inspiration behind this beautiful book, Angie?
You know, I always thought about, I listened to a lot of merengue típico and bachata, and I grew up with, I have a son who's 16 years old and played the violin, and I wanted him to be familiar with the instruments of Dominican music. And, but more than anything, I always notice how we see very few young girls and women in merengue típico playing in those bands. And I wanted to just have a character who's playing this instrument, and that through playing this instrument, even if it's a sound that other kid that they don't hear maybe at the school orchestra, or they don't hear specifically when they're listening to a song, it's something that they know they inherited it and they could be proud of. And that, in the end, Angélica, nobody wants to listen to her play this instrument by itself. But when she decides to play for herself to stay more connected to her grandparents, she realizes like the people that understand her will come to her.
That is beautiful. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you for sharing that beautiful story.
Thank you.
Okay, so it is my turn. Let's read a little bit of ¿Cómo se come un mango? Bueno, voy a hablar español para esta parte. Bueno, espero que les guste. Vamos a ver qué tal. Miren, miren estos mangos tan ricos. Cuando Lourdes estaba hablando de todas esas frutas, yo no podía dejar de pensar en los mangos. Miren cómo se ve todo delicioso. Regresa a la paginita para que vean bien los mangos. Para aquellos que no conocen los mangos, no se ven jugosos, se ven deliciosos. Let's go. Gracias. Ok. Hoy, abuelita me hace ayudarla a cortar mangos de su árbol. Tengo que retirar los mangos echados a perder, mientras ella amontona los maduros y tararea feliz. La, la, la. Pero mira la cara de Carmencita, no se ve muy contenta. ¿Qué creen ustedes? No creo. Le da una mordida a uno y me lo ofrece. ¡Guácala! No me gustan los mangos, digo alejándome de ella. Vamos a ver qué va a hacer Carmencita. No te gusta comer mangos porque no sabes cómo hacerlo, dice abuelita. Son pegajosos y sus hilos se atoran entre mis dientes. ¡Uf! El mango es mucho más que eso, mi amor. Yo veo que solo son frutas, digo, sintiendo como si este día nunca fuera a acabar. No, Carmencita, ven, yo te enseño. Vamos a ver lo que abuelita le va a enseñar a Carmencita. 1. Escuchamos, dice abuelita. Las largas hojas verdes del árbol de mango se mecen con la brisa. Susurran historias de rayos de sol y lluvia y de quienes están bajo su sombra. Murmuran nuestros nombres. Carmencita. Suena como mami cantando mi nombre para despertarme. Así es, mi amor. Un brum, brum, brum retumba entre mis oídos. ¡Wow! Esas son las raíces que se remueven, dice abuelita. Muy abajo son como un árbol al revés. Fíjense lo grande que son las raíces. Son tan grandes como el árbol, mira. Tan grande como el de la superficie. Beben la vida de mamá tierra. Le susurran, gracias, thank you, gracias. Cuando es hora de dormir, damos las gracias por mami y papi y por ti, abuelita. Mira, Carmencita está pensando en toda la gente que ama. Ahí está su papi, su mami y su abuelita. Y yo doy las gracias por ti, mi amor. And that's everything I can read.
It's so beautiful.
Gracias. Bueno, van a tener que buscar el libro y leer el resto. You have to find the book and read the rest. But you can imagine that we go through all 5 senses. Now we are looking up, looking at the fruits. Then we smell them, we touch them, and the most important part, we tasted. Nos comemos un mango y son deliciosos. Y bueno, mi inspiración para este libro es mi propia experiencia, mi propia vida. Cuando yo era pequeña, mi abuelita, my grandma, nosotros teníamos 4 árboles de mango en nuestro patio. Y se pueden imaginar. You can imagine with 4 mango trees, all full of mangoes everywhere. And they rot there and the smell was terrible, so I hated it. But I remember that when my abuelita was eating a mango, oh my goodness, her face was bright. She was always humming in delight. Le encantaba comer su mango y yo creo que lo hacía a propósito para ver si yo quería probarlo. Nunca me animé cuando estaba escribiendo este libro. finally, I tasted a mango when I was researching to write this beautiful book, you know. So now I know mangoes are amazing, delicious. So that's the story behind how to eat a mango or cómo se come un mango. But now I want to ask specifically to René and Lourdes, why do you decided to write, a bilingual picture book with the Spanish and the English? Why was, ¿por qué lo decidieron de esa forma?
René, ¿quieres hacer tú? ¿Quieres ir primero?
Que yo empiezo. Yo desde que decidí ser escritor, de mandar mis cuentos, desde el primer momento me imaginé mi libro bilingüe. Since I started submitting my work to publishers, I always seeing myself writing bilingual books. And why? Because I'm a native Spanish speaker, and I wanted all the children in El Salvador to read my books. I wanted the students in my classroom who were learning English to learn to read my books in Spanish too. So that's my main idea, to see children reading my books in either language, English and Spanish. Mostly of my parents say they don't speak a second language. They speak English or they speak Spanish, so they can take turns reading the books in English and Spanish. So I started targeting only bilingual publishers when I started submitting my work. And luckily enough, I was able to publish with all of them. And it wasn't easy. I was really knocking at door. Many of those publishers are gone. But that was my main idea. And
Are all your books bilingual books?
Mostly, I have 17 books out, and 15 are bilingual. And other books, they have like a companion book, one in English and one book in Spanish.
Okay.
So, but that's my main idea. And I am so happy now that I go back to El Salvador and I see the children reading my book. Y mi mamá y mi papá también lo pueden leer. So, esa fue mi idea, es ser maestro bilingüe. Eso me ayudó mucho a conectarme con leer en dos idiomas, porque eso es lo que yo hago en mi salón de clase.
Perfect. So, what about you, Lourdes?
I would say my experience is similar. Lo mismo que yo, mi primer idioma también es el español. Más que todo, yo creo, like Angie, I have a teenage son. And so when he was a baby, I was always looking for bilingual books to read to him. Y lo que leíamos mucho era, hay los libros de Eric Carle, que tiene una versión, claro, la versión original, pero también la versión en español. Y le leía mucho como oso pardo, oso pardo. And, I thought about like how much I loved reading those books to him. And so, of course, now, that I have the opportunity to write my own, it's a dream to be able to do it, to be able to write books that I would have read to my own baby, to my own toddler, en los dos idiomas, que lo puedo leer en español, lo puedo leer en inglés. That other kids like me who, I had to learn English when I moved to the United States when I was 8. So, that you are learning a new language, that you have books that give you that experience of being able to maybe read in a language that you're already comfortable in, but also to practice a new one. O a lo mejor no hablas ese otro idioma, ¿verdad? A lo mejor no hablas español, pero puedes aprender poco a poco con un libro like this. You can just start with una palabrita y vas aprendiendo cómo se dice algo en otro idioma.
Oh, definitivamente. I learned English 50 years ago, so I kind of understand
what it's like.
These books are. So, how was to see your book translated to Spanish, Angie?
Well, for me, it's been really exciting because it wasn't until recently that my books have been translated. And I've been working very closely with the wonderful, brilliant children's book writer and also translator Kiani Antigua, who has been writing children's books. She's written many children's books that are both in English and Spanish. So to work with her makes the work more accessible, right? Like it's because even though I have a difficult time writing in Spanish, I grew up speaking mostly Spanish. I come from a family of Dominican immigrants, son dominicano. me hablaban en español y yo puedo hablar español, pero escribirlo en español es difícil para mí, porque para mí, para escribir es como, it's like to find the magic in language.
Mm-hmm.
And to find the magic in language, you really need to know the language, which I don't really know the language, right? So it's very beautiful to read it in Spanish, because sometimes I feel the Spanish is closer to what I want in the work.
Yes. Oh, I relate completely. I didn't know my book was going to be translated. So when my editor said that to me, I was jumping around my house because, oh my goodness, como un bono, a bonus. I wasn't expecting that. And for me, I'm Spanish speaker. Español es mi primer idioma. Y sé exactamente cómo se siente escribir en otro idioma, porque lo hago ahorita. Lo escribo, el libro fue escrito en inglés. How to Eat a Mango fue escrito en inglés y todo yo lo escribo en inglés. Y es complicado porque uno no tiene el slang, no tiene todo eso que trae el idioma al comienzo cuando tú hablas con tus amigos no es lo mismo. It's not the same. For me, it's not the same to speak in Spanish and to speak in English. So it's an amazing thing to see this book translated. And for all kids, I hope that you like the book. And it's part of our culture, es parte de nosotros, de nuestra cultura. Y espero que se sientan identificados, y no solamente para aquellas personas que hablan español, pero para todos, que sepan que hay libros en diferentes idiomas, o alguien que quiera aprender un poquito el español, pues pueden tener ambos libros, ambas versiones, y pues ayudarse un poco, ¿verdad?
Yes. I went to an event, and a lot of the people that bought the book in Spanish didn't speak Spanish, but they want their children to learn Spanish. And what they do is buy the book in Spanish and listen to the audiobook in Spanish.
Oh.
So the audiobook helps them with the pronunciation. And I was like, oh, that's a really wonderful way for mothers and fathers and their kids to read in Spanish, even if it's a language they don't know well, by using the audio, because we're very lucky. Now all my books have audios. I feel very privileged. So you could actually read along with the audio.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, amazing. So I think we have some questions for some students. Preguntas que ya han sido, ahí está. How old were you when you knew you wanted to be a writer or illustrator? Oh, that's Diana from a third grade, Petaluma High School. Oh, gracias, Diana. Okay, let's see. René, how old were you when you knew you wanted to be a writer?
I always loved to read books and to write little stories since I was a child. I remember that El Chapulín Colorado from Mexico was coming to El Salvador, and there was a contest to write a little poem about El Chapulín Colorado. And the winner will go to see the show and sitting in the first row, sentarse en la primera línea de ver. So I wrote a little poem, I submitted it, and I was a finalist. I didn't win, but I was a finalist. And my father, I went with my father to the auditorium, and I wasn't sitting in the first row, but I was able to see a tiny little Chavo del Ocho from the back. And I remember when I was 12 years old, cuando tenía 12 años, mi papá me preguntó, what do you want for your present, for Christmas present? Y yo pedí una engrapadora, a stapler. Why una engrapadora? And my idea was to write my little books and to staple them, so to have like little books. So that was my present for my 12 years, when I turned 12, cuando cumplí 12 años, esa engrapadora, y con esa engrapadora hice muchos libritos que yo escribía y hacía mis dibujitos. Así todos chuecos, pero así los hacía. So I think like since I was a little boy, I have this idea of being a writer. And I was lucky enough to have a writer in the family. Jorge Buenaventura Laínez is a famous author in El Salvador. Now there is a library that was named after him in his own town, Cojutepeque. So having Tío Jorge as a writer, he was also an inspiration for me.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. What about you, Lourdes?
Thank you for your question, Jan. As a 10th grader, it's great to see high school students here with us. And I was interested in, I've always wanted to be a writer. I was always writing. I was writing even from younger than that age. I did a lot of what young people today, I think, call fan fiction, which is all of the books that I loved. I would sort of write little stories with those characters based on that. And I was lucky enough that for a period of time, my dad worked part-time for a publishing house and would bring a lot of books home. And so I was always in love with books. And I can tell this lovely student who asked this question that even in 10th grade, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I can still pull out all my 10th grade English binders. I still have all the notes that I took in all my English classes in high school. Because it was definitely an early love. Es algo que yo siempre he querido hacer.
Lovely. What about you, Angie?
I didn't know I wanted to be a writer until I was an adult. It took me many years to even imagine. I don't come from artists. There are no artists. Well, they are artists that are published, right? Or, but I would argue that I come from some really great storytellers. They told such great stories in the kitchen, like while we were hanging out. And I feel I learned a lot from them. And I always have been telling stories, but knowing to be a writer, it didn't come to me much later when I felt that there were teachers and, librarians and everyone who came to me and was like, you could be a writer. Like that was really important. And I think it's important to say that if someone tells you that you're good at something, wow, you draw really well, or you write really well, like make a note of that and think about, okay, well, how do I get better?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We all have gifts and then we have to get better. And that's when I started taking writing classes and reading more books. And, and then slowly I decided, okay, this is something I want to do.
Oh, yeah, I get it. For me, when I was a kid, I really liked to write. I wrote poems. Yo escribía poemas pequeñitos. Yo tenía una carpeta y la acomodé, la arreglé con sus papelitos bonitos, todos decorados. Y escribí mi primer poema, lo recuerdo. My first poem was about the three wise men, los tres reyes magos. I don't remember the poem. I don't know what happened with the poem. I don't know anything. But that moment just stayed with me, that feeling of creating something nice, something beautiful. And I don't remember that I wrote that before that. No me acuerdo, no sé si escribí más, nada. Pero después, cuando estaba ya en universidad estudiando literatura, I studied literature at the university, and I started thinking about writing. I felt like I was a writer. Yo sentía que era una escritora, pero hasta que no me mudé aquí a Canadá fue que empecé a pensar sobre la idea de escribir algo. Y me gustan las cosas cortas. Me gustan, no tanto escribir novelas, pero me gusta escribir poemas. Pero al mismo tiempo también me gusta mucho la ilustración. Yo soy artista, me gusta pintar y me gusta dibujar. Y qué mejor, what is best than a picture book with beautiful art and beautiful writing. You can write poems in a book, or if not, very lyrical. So I thought, this is perfect for me. And I started. I, I love it because you can daydream all day long, thinking about your writing, the characters, plot. So I love that. So people can say, oh, you are just daydreaming. I'm working. So
I love
I love to write. So thank you. So I think that we have another question from the audience. Yes. How did you choose all of the special objects you focus on in these stories? Los mangos, las flores, el guiro, el Stanley. I love this. I love this. So, okay, let's start with René again.
Mi enfoque en mis libros es la experiencia del niño inmigrante. So that's my main focus. So the focus on my books is about the immigrant child. I remember coming to the United States when I was 14. I didn't know any word of English, and I experienced a culture shock. Like everything was different. I remember the date, la fecha en la pizarra. Yo la escribí al revés. Así no se escribe. Las sumas, las restas, la temperatura, los kilómetros ya eran millas. So, yo hablo sobre la experiencia del inmigrante. And my second focus is about living in two cultures, viviendo en dos culturas. Most of my children, all of my children, they live in two cultures. The one from the United States and the one from the native countries. And in my books, I try to combine the two cultures together. And I say to my children and everyone, if you have two languages and two cultures, don't fight which one is better than the other. Both are important. Instead, put them together and have double the fun. And so that is my message as an author. And those are my main focus.
Love that idea. Yes, yes. What about you, Lourdes? With the tiny shops.
Yeah, I think, for example, with the fruits in particular, I'm in you mentioned you were in Canada. I'm in South Florida. So of course I'm thinking of all of the great, fruit that we have here. I was at the store the other day. Yeah, papayas. And you may not see that everywhere, right? So when I was a kid, my parents left Cuba and went to Spain. I think there's a lot more things there now that they can get now that they couldn't get before. But my parents missed the kinds of tropical fruit that that they would eat when they were kids. Because they didn't sell them there. And maybe you're in a part of the country right now. Maybe some of the kids who are listening to us are in parts of the country where those maybe something that they used to love, they don't have access to anymore. You sort of have this memory of loving something. Paola, tú tienes la memoria del mango. Aunque no lo comías, tienes la memoria del mango, pero a lo mejor no tienes árbol de mango en Canadá, no sé.
No way.
No. Y entonces estaba pensando en eso, right? Like we see lots of, I don't know, we've seen lots of apples. We've seen lots of other fruit in some of these books, but maybe we haven't always seen una pitaya or una guayaba, which I love so much to eat, That's kind of why I made the choice for some of those.
Yo no conozco la pitaya.
Bueno, ¿ves? ¿No ves? Hay muchos que a lo mejor no. Y cada uno tiene su favorito. A mí, I love loquats. A mí el níspero me encanta. Pero también mucho es por memoria, ¿verdad? Por memoria, porque yo viví en una casa que tenía un árbol de níspero.
You're
kind of bringing your own memories, and you're sort of like seeding that into your stories too.
Yo sí comía nísperos cuando era chiquita y me encantaba. Sí. What about you, Angie, with the Güira?
I mean, it's interesting when you speak about memories like that. Like I think about now as when I go back to Dominican Republic every summer, like the objects that I wanted to hold on to that place that I loved so much as a child. Because when I went there in the summer, I just went to play. I was with my cousins, and so I feel like in some ways this book is about taking this object, la Güira, which is really easy to identify in Dominican Republic. But when you bring it to the United States, people are like, what is that? And in some ways, that's how I grew up. Like people like, what are you? Who are you? Where are you from? Like, is that part of Mexico? Like,
oh, yeah.
Like there's such a lack of representation of the Dominican population in books, in media. So like for me, like this is a weird looking object that is very familiar to a lot of people outside of Dominican Republic, or, you know, to the countries that don't use it. And it's a very familiar object to me. And I think this is why I write. I write to make visible the things that are not often visible in the conversations and the, you know, in this country. So yeah, I would say like you made me think of that, Lourdes. I never thought about it that way, but I was like, yeah, it's kind of that thing that we hold on to, a little bit of nostalgia, maybe.
It's definitely a little bit of nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Nosotros in Venezuela, we had a very similar instrument, but it's called la charrasca.
Mm-hmm.
And it's played in my city specifically. It's a part of a kind of a folk music in my city. It's called la gaita,
Mm-hmm.
and it's played during the holidays, in December, the December holidays. So, yeah, I love it. I love it. And I can relate to the nostalgia because I think Cómo se come un mango, how to eat a mango is full of nostalgia. And that's why I chose the mango. The first time I thought about, I was researching in my mind, I thought, you know, that object that reminded me to my country, my culture, was the mango, because my abuelita was eating them in my mind, in my memory. And every time I think about Venezuela, it's, you know, la imagen del mango viene a mi memoria. Y es como es como un puente de unión entre lo que yo conocía, lo que es y lo que quiero mostrar también al niño, a ustedes, lo que quiero mostrarle a mis lectores, es lo hermoso que hay en otras culturas, porque tampoco hay mucha representación venezolana en Estados Unidos.
Mm-hmm.
Y aquí en Canadá, pues, menos, porque yo vivo aquí en Canadá y donde hay mucho frío y no hay árboles de mango. No hay árboles de mango. Solamente you can just find mangoes at the grocery store. At least you can find mangoes at the grocery store. So I'm grateful for that. So yes, it's for me it was very important. When I chose the mango, it was I felt it, lo sentía en mi corazón para poder expresarlo.
Paola,
Perfect thing. Yes.
what you said about reminded me of what René had said about the culture shock, right? So like, you know, even someone like me that grew up in New York, in a Dominican community, every time I left the community, it was culturally shocking that the things that belong to us, like Spanish, mangoes, you know, like these things that really matter and are part of our home life, our house language, they're not, that's a language many people don't speak. So these books are so important for that reason, because I think they empower kids to understand that everything that they are has a place
Exactly.
in this world.
Yes, and that they matter. That
they matter,
their
yeah.
stories matter. Yes. Su historia, mis niños, es la más importante, así que vamos a disfrutarla. Muy bien. We are, it's almost time, so I don't know if we have another question. Okay. How do you pick an idea from all the ideas in your head? Ooh, Federico, 5th grade. Please and Bill, love that question. So let's go a little bit quicker. René, how do you pick all those ideas?
This morning for breakfast, my students were eating banana. They were using it like a phone, or they were putting like on their head like a band. And I said, okay, how many ways what can you do with a banana? So I got an idea to write a book about how different ways to write a banana. And this happened this morning. So I get an idea from children, from my students, newspaper. So I always, my head is always have so many ideas and so many time to write, but the ideas are there.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Lourdes, what about you?
Federico, te cuento. Sometimes the ideas are everywhere, and sometimes the ideas are nowhere. And what I mean by that is that sometimes there's so many, you're observing, you're reading, You see something on TV and it makes you think of something else, and you're making all these connections, or you have a memory, or you hear a song, and any of those things can give you the idea. And the one that is sort of talking to you the most, the one that you sort of can't get out of your head, is the one that's kind of calling you. Escríbeme, escríbeme. You know, I'm the one that you need to write. But I think it's also okay if there are some times when the ideas don't come. And sometimes you start to worry, am I ever going to have a good idea again? Is the idea ever going to come to me? And sometimes it just takes a little patience and a little quiet until you hear that good idea. And then you're back where you were again. So both things are true. The ideas are everywhere, and sometimes we can't hear them, and we just have to be patient and wait for them.
Oh, I love that, Lourdes.
Yeah, because we get a little confidence, right? A veces que nos sentimos que, oh, a lo mejor nunca voy a tener una buena idea el resto de mi vida. And you have to just kind of be patient and wait for it.
Yes. Usually when that happens, I think, you know, I had an idea before. It's going to come. Just don't worry about it. Just take it easy, and it works. Just relax. So what about you, Angie? Oh, you're still muted.
For me, I don't think about a good idea. I think about, I just write something down. It could be good, it could be bad, it doesn't matter, right? Like sometimes our initial ideas are not so great, and that's okay. But definitely I find writing is thinking, right? Or drawing is thinking. And when you're writing and drawing, then something will come up, right? So I try not to put pressure on myself. And I realized that, you know, every good story requires revision, which no fifth grader wants to hear. But it's look at your work, go back, you know, and think about it and look at it. And the more you look at it, the more you love it, I think. So.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it takes time. And bueno, para mí también, yo como me gusta dibujar, también hago dibujitos o escribo poemas, and they are very intuitive. Sometimes I don't think how it's working, if it's working or if it's not working. I just do it. It doesn't matter if it's horrible. I just do it because I know that with time and with practice, it's gonna get better. So, and for those ideas, I have a lot of ideas in my mind of memories, usually memories of my home country, of my childhood, memorias de mi niñez, de todo aquello que viví con mi familia, con mis abuelos, mis padres, mis hermanos. En total éramos 5 hermanos, así que somos 5 hermanos y tenemos muchas vivencias, hacíamos muchas cosas. Entonces, todas esas memorias me ayudan a tener mis ideas. Pero las ideas que se quedan, como decía Lourdes, are the ones that start talking to you, that they stay around. You go for a walk and they just walk with you. You are taking a shower and they're just there with you as well. So those are the ones that I kind of start just writing about. And as I said, when I start writing them, I just let them out, whatever it is. I don't pay attention to anything, and it helps a lot. So, well, it is almost time. So thank you, everybody. This was amazing. And my goodness, I have a blast with you. Thank you so much for being here. And well, for being in the Kidlit Book Festival. Yes. Thank you all for attending the Vamos a Leer Bilingual Storytime at the Kidlit Book Festival, and see you next time. Nos vemos.
Sí, nos
vemos. Adiós. Bye.